grew up here in North Carolina, a small country town, Clinton, Sampson County. My parents were teen parents. My mom was 16 and my dad was 18 when I was born. So from the time I was about 2, which is actually when my parents got married, like I'm in their wedding pictures, because my mom was 18. She was legally able to marry then. We started going to a church in the small town, and it was a small church. There's only like 6 to 10 families that were part of the church probably. But it was a very strict to rules kind of church, especially for women. Like no cutting your hair, no makeup, no pants. You had to wear, shirts below your elbow, no TV, no movies, like a very follow the rules kind of church. Definitely gave me a view of God of being disappointed, and it was on me to make sure I did the right thing to earn his love and approval and all those things. I remember my mom putting makeup on for the first time that I remember, and me being scared to death that I was you're going to go to hell because you're wearing makeup, because that's what I'd been taught all those years as a young child. So yeah, it scared me. I had fear, real fear of God. We did try a couple more churches after that church dissolved, just nothing really that we stayed consistent with. And then in the middle of my middle school years, literally right smack dab in the middle of my 7th grade year, my parents got a divorce, and me and my mom and my brother moved to Raleigh. And we didn't go to church for several years. Obviously, from just all I just told you, I was very consumed in the world, living a very worldly life. And both my parents do struggle with addiction. And so I saw that everywhere. And after my parents' divorce, I was already the strong older child, right? My parents had their own struggles and they were broken. And so I showed up, or I had to show up to take up the slack. I was cooking dinner and cleaning the house and doing the things for me and my brother. And then as my other siblings came along, for them as well. So that was my identity. That's where I found worth and value and thought that's what it was that got people to love me, because I'm strong and I could take care of stuff, that's why my parents loved me. It was a very conditional exchange, it felt all the time. Once I got pregnant and I was having my son, the reality of oh my gosh, there is going to be another being truly dependent on me, and I feel I don't really know what is going on, and I don't really know how to live this life, and I don't have an example of healthy boundaries or anything like that. It just all came to realization that I don't want this to repeat kind of thing. And I was drinking every day, smoking, and it felt familiar because it's what I'd grown up around my whole life pretty much. And throughout my whole pregnancy, which I didn't share this yet, my brother came to me and my mom and told us that he had been struggling with an opioid addiction. And so when he finally told us, we my whole entire pregnancy, literally I was driving to the hospital in the middle of the night because he had been hospitalized and was getting Narcan and this and that. We were going to the magistrate's office to do involuntary commitments because it was just an ongoing thing. And just that whole time I was facing this identity crisis, because it's I can't be this person I've been my whole life, but who am I going to be kind of thing. And then dealing with that. And then when after I had my son, and my son was about 3 months old, my brother died of an overdose. And so I was postpartum depression because all these emotions of being a new mom, and I had masked feelings my whole life and didn't want to talk about them. So that was just so overwhelming because it's I had no choice. It was I would just start busting out crying, and so then I hated myself because I'm why are you crying? You're the strong one, kind of thing. And then my brother dies, and I just literally spiraled. I just lost all illusion of control I had. So many people. I mean, I even took care of one of the family members of a pastor here, and for 2 years, and was talked to about Temple all the time, and it was just and God was just constantly telling me, Temple, you gotta get to recovery, you need to be here. And I just kept avoiding it. And at the same time, my oldest son had a friend at school who they lived in the same neighborhood as us, literally 3 houses down from us. And at a school function I met that friend's mom, and she mentioned, yeah, we go to Temple, where do you guys go to church, and this and that. And every time I just would kind of sigh and roll my eyes kind of thing, Temple again kind of thing. But eventually, after all the ways that God like just pursued me and kept telling me, kept pushing me here, in 2020 when all the churches shut down, I had started getting this feeling like I think we need to try different places. I started watching some recovery services online because they were still happening at Recovery Alive, and after like 2 or 3 of those, I was like really feeling like we need to come. And then finally my kids were like, hey, our friends down the street asked us to come to their church. Can we please go to their church? And I was like, okay. And then eventually a few months later, started coming on Sunday mornings. My oldest son, they've been raised in church now, technically. He was right at a year old when we started going to church in Clayton. And so for, several years, he was at the other church, and then we started coming here, and he was like, I'm learning so much. It was just so eye-opening to me, because it was like, even in the children's environments, they're truly introducing them to Jesus and seeing on display, and not just hearing about it and knowing the story of it, but seeing how the gospel truly impacts people and how it applies to people's lives. And so God's pursuit of me, I thought, was just so that I could be a healed version of myself, and so that I could actually be in a relationship with God, because instead of just going to church and waiting to have eternity with God when I get to heaven, it's more about no, God wants to be in a relationship with me right now. And that's why he gave me Jesus. See, that's why he sent Jesus. It wasn't so that I could just endure this world right now until heaven comes. It's so that I can be in a relationship with God right now. And now I'm seeing, obviously, that there's an even bigger picture, because yes, 3 months now being children's director here, which is not something that I ever thought of or fathomed or imagined or anything like that. And actually when it came to be that, when God told me this is your job, I argued with him and kind of back-talked him for a month or so, because I'm like, I'm a nurse, and that's my mission. I can minister to people as a nurse. But yeah, when the director that was here called me and told me, because I was volunteering in kids environments, so she was just kind of letting everyone know personally that she was stepping down. I literally in that phone call heard God say, this is your job. And I just laughed and was like, I don't know who you were talking to, but I'm a nurse. And it just was constant over and over and over, him telling me this is for you, this is for you. And I mean, things everything I would argue back to him. One day I was like, what would I even put on a resume? I have 16 years of nursing experience. What would I put on a resume for a children's director position? And then later that night, as I'm scrolling through Facebook, something pops up that was David didn't submit a resume to fight Goliath. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It was just crazy examples of things that constantly he was just this is for you. And I had every intention of returning back to the school year in August. So I knew that my job was coming to a near end temporarily. But then we come back from spring break, and my first email I opened was contract nurses will not be renewed. So as of June 6th, we will no longer need you. And it was okay. So yes, I finally, start typing up some things, still just very skeptical, and on my knees next to my bed one Saturday morning, just talking to God about it, grieving my job, because I really truly enjoyed nursing and loved it, and loved school nursing with kids. And I literally just kind of surrendered, and I was like, if this is what you want me to do, then you got to do it. I got up, wiped my face, and I sent that and had an interview, and within 2 weeks they were like, we want you to be the children's director. So heal people, and that's important, because we understand how to give it back. And it's not about me showing up. It's not Jessica that is doing this. It's about me introducing you to Jesus, who is the strength and is the joy and the peace and the abundant life. This is what you can expect if you bring your children to Temple. You can expect people to love them and to allow them to have space to be themselves, to talk about what's really going on in their lives, to be supportive, be a safe place for them, and just really to show up for them, and not to just be here and have another place to just come and just fill in the time, but to really want to get to know them, want to really know what's going on in their lives, so that they have answers to handle those problems, because kids are resilient and they can just take it. They will just take it, because they don't know how else to live. That's their normal, right? The people that are volunteering in the children's environments know that, because they've lived that, and we've talked about it, and we realize that. I feel whenever I'm in there, I'm pouring into that Jessica that needed the Jessica I am now and to walk it with me.